My name is Horace Barnes. I'm the chair of the WAWI West Indian Project, and it actually stands for Why Are West Indians in this country? A question answered in England's hidden history. So people constantly keep saying to us, where do you come from? Why didn't you go back to where you came from? That sort of thing. By answering this question in this book, or helping to answer the questions in the book, which actually then tells people why are West Indians in this country, so they won't ask us the question anymore. And then a question answers in England history, so the next question is, why don't you go back to where you came from, why you're here? And then of course it's England history, it's there, it's just that what they don't know, what it's been there for hundreds of years. And for 500 years West Indians have actually supported, fought, cared, nursed, built, rebuilt this country, refought, etc., etc. And what had happened on the death of my uncle in 2007, he just happened to be passenger 680, and he's actually now included in this book, which is part of the Windrush Foundation. The Windrush Foundation are actually what we would call the custodians of the actual Windrush journey. What happened was a guy called Sam King. He was on the boat. He was in the Second World War. He was in the RAF. He went back to Jamaica. And then obviously he didn't make it the way he wanted to make it, and he got back on a ship called the SS Empire Windrush and returned back to Britain. And of course we all know it now. On the 22nd of June 1948, the ship pulled up in Tilbury docks, and it's folklore now. What happened when my uncle, when I was growing, my uncle kept telling me these stories about the Windrush, but they were sticking, but they weren't sticking, if that makes sense. And he would say to me, oh yeah, we came and we did this, and I worked here and I worked there. And one of the things that they used to keep saying was that you could get a job at 9 o'clock and leave the job at 12 o'clock and walk into another job at 12 o'clock and leave that job at 12 o'clock and go into a job at 3 o'clock. Now, the one thing that people sometimes want to insult us about, they say you come and take the jobs. Well, really and truly, what is actually telling you, the work was more than the population could actually manage itself. And without the West Indians, these British citizens coming back to this country, coming to what they call the mother country, to rebuild it, where would we be now? Because of what they did, they turned Britain into the biggest industrial nation the world has ever seen. And when I did his eulogy, I realized what he had told me was now coming true. You know, he had told me all these things, and I took it for granted then. The worst part about it was I realized that the West Indian community have never, ever been thanked. And we wanted to do something about it. And that's where that comes in. My uncle is behind it. But secondly, injustice. How can you put things right if you don't know what's wrong?
Good point.
And we are working with the military, the police, the NHS, the civil service. We're working with anybody, and now we're working with you. For some way along the line, the Lord has said, cross, work together, and put things right. You know, I've got this great man, Mr. Jacobs, and other military guys that served in the Second World War, and I've been able to hook up with them, get their stories out. And you know, in life, people will always say to you, is it true? Is it a story? And that's why we don't use the word story. We use the word journey. So when I'm saying to people, no, it's a journey. It's his journey. It's her journey. And people can then actually turn around and say, oh, I know somebody. I know them. You know, the biggest joke about this is, and really, it really grates me, is that the West Indians are directly related to English, Scottish, Irish and Welsh. our names. Some people may say, oh no, it's not. Well, really and truly, it is. If they were to do a DNA of us, it will come out exactly the way I've said it. And the point is, why would you decide to attack somebody who is willing to fight for you, is willing to help you, willing to build a country for you, willing to nurse you, and when your back is up against the wall, you're always looking for somebody to come in and say, either stop, or if you keep playing with that person, you're going to have to play with me. And the West Indians have done that. The Indians have done it. The Pakistanis have done it. The Bangladeshis have done it. Nepal have done it. You know what I mean? Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Kenya, Nigeria, Accra, Benin, South Africa. I could go on forever. There is something like 54 members of the Commonwealth, and they belong to every different shade, every different culture, every different religion. That's what you call a family. Yeah, it's like I said, I buried my uncle in 2007 March, and that's when the problem started. Somebody said to me, it was a minister, and who was burying my uncle. You know, she asked me a question. I said, "No, I'm so angry," and she said, "Look, use your anger. Put it in a way like to either talk about it or write." And that's when I started to form some sort of notes to represent my uncle. And then as that went on, the secretary, she's very good at English. I can't. I'm not very good at English. I got a CCSSC, I think, or some more C O level or something like that. Well, I was trying to do it in a poetic form to make sure that people would be gentle, passing it on to the next person, especially if a child, like a grandfather or grandmother, would pick up the book and say to the grandchild, "Come here, let me show you something, let me read something to you." And that was the ideas in my mind. And so then I started abroad in it. I'm a ex-civil servant, and then a couple of my mates started to jump in. They started to drop in bits of history that they knew, and these were from all different cultures. They weren't just my own. And then on top of that, other members of the family started to pick up on it. Next thing you know, it was Birmingham City Council, libraries. I said, "How can I get this book into the library?" And they said, "Well, what you need to do, give us a copy, we will discuss it at a certain date, and on that date, we will then make a decision whether to or not." They actually picked up the book and said, "Wow, this is fantastic. Can you bring a book in?" We did. "Can you bring us 6 copies that we'll buy?" We did. We give them at a discount. Then they rang me up and said, "Is it possible you can go round and do talks for the children? We'll get the children into the libraries and you can talk to them." Jackpot. We're now in the libraries with these primary kids, between 10 and 11, and we're talking about Windrush and how Windrush came about, and we built it up. And that's the reason why Windrush is where it is today. Not because of any other reason. It's because we went out to the people. And I will say to anybody, if you have a problem, sometimes don't go to the people that you think will help you. You go to the real people. The real people will come always forward and offer and volunteer their services. And they did. And they pushed us until, obviously, the funding stopped. And then, of course, we stopped that end. Well, you thought they would stop then. But no, the West Indian community, the elder groups, the churches, their own after-school clubs, they start picking it up. And they started inviting us in to actually do talks, educate them, blah, 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 blah. And so it built into where we are today. And the funny part about it was that a few military personnel started popping up. And of course, that we're big in the NHS. They popped up. And then we started developing what we call the battle standards of the West Indians to prove our actual historical worth to the people of this country. And I remember once I did write someone, and they said to me in a writing, "Why do you want to know about this great West Indian regiment?" And I'm saying, "Hold on, what sort of question is that? You should be actually happy for me to be actually talking about this West Indian regiment, because they've never talked about the West Indian regiment. They only talk about them when they help them. There's so much more on that I could tell you, but we haven't got the time for that. But we will probably work it out some other time. But I will tell you one thing. Without all these people that have come on to the WAWI West Indian project, and now your production team, it's now doing what we want to do. We don't want to physically browbeat people into submission. We want to give it to them in a way that they can say, this is democracy. This is a yes or a no. Either I do believe it or I don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, go and find out for yourself. And then you'll believe. And then when you do believe, you realise you've been wasting a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy with your negativity, your deliberate, what would you call this, undercurrents, or pulling the carpet from underneath people. And when you actually work out how much that's costing this country, you will work it out. It ain't millions, it's billions. You know, it's been going on for too long. It's been a beautiful journey, a positive journey, even a journey that I didn't think would be this difficult, but it was. And because of these people, Royal Navy members, past and present, Army members, past and present, Air Force members, past and present, you know, and people like that, NHS, past and present, trade unionists, past and present, civil servants, past and present, some councillors are dilly-dallied, and MPs have dilly-dallied, acting like they're interested, but really they're not. But I will say one thing: when we go out to a lot of people, remembrance days, especially armed forces days, NHS days, whatever days you want to talk about it, even our own West Indian days, which is Windrush days. When we engage with these other communities, other societies, other organisations, and they now actually show an interest, and they ask you questions to say, did this really happen? And when you show an historical film of the time, and they look at it and they say, oh my gosh. I mean, one of the biggest impact ones that we have is the victory parade of the Second World War. And when they see all these nations that have actually fought for the empire, who are part of the Commonwealth, who are part of the empire, and they come from all, and they're all marching in their lines, and it's only then that the people of this country realise how big a job it was to win the Second World War. For me, all those guys that are working with us now, part of the project, you know who you are. I never really say thank you enough, but I thank you all, because we're here.